Hi everyone, welcome to a Q&A session. It is a fantastic time to learn photography, and even though we can't be outside so much, at least, well, we can actually stay creative by doing a whole bunch of really cool things. For example, working on photo apps, working through our collection, our archives. And in this little segment, this Q&A segment today, I'd really like to encourage you to do some research on other photographers that are certainly influenced by the culture around them. For example, what I'm going to do, and it was a really great comment or question yesterday, I'm just going to put it down in the comments here for those who have just joined. Let me see if I can paste this. And hopefully you guys can see that. Now, I don't know if you're able to actually click on links within this Instagram Live. However, these are people and actually places that you can go to get inspiration. So, for example, for street photography, Henri Cartier-Bresson, of course, was it's the easiest answer for my biggest influence in street photography. Gertrude Kasebier, and I think it's a German spelling, so I probably mispronounced that. Anyway, she was a very early photographer, and one of her images really grabbed me in my early days, about 23 years ago, which inspired me to become a photographer. Then also, in that list, I gave you links of Instagram posts of Japanese photographers who I really think are quite amazing. So hopefully you can scroll back, click those, or what I'll also do is I'm going to record this and I'm going to post it on my YouTube page, which is Mark Hemmings Photography School. So after this is all done, then please go to Mark Hemmings Photography School and you can actually check out those links, hopefully. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all. Thanks for joining. I'm going to give you guys some waves. And by the way, Cinderbug and the Sanjay are requesting to be live. Yes, of course. Now, if you press this by mistake, just decline, okay? That's perfectly okay. So I'm going to the requests here, let's just see if it was real or a mistake. It doesn't matter. Okay, unable to join, that's fine. Let me try that other one here. Cynthia, if this was a mistake, then just ignore it, okay? And by the way, the little happy faces that are below, that's for joining me live. If you do want to join me with me live, then feel free. If it was a mistake, then don't bother. Okay, hi, are you there? Okay, no problem. So what I'll get you to do is put your questions in the little question mark box. It's right below, it's right beside the comments, and that will help me to be able to answer your questions really quickly. Melinda says hi. Melinda1779, welcome, I'm glad you could join. Okay, hi everybody, welcome, good to see you. And if you're just joining, and by the way, Cinderbug says hi from Edmonton. Welcome, Cinderbug from Edmonton. I wonder if it's as cold as it is right now where you are. Amorimi, hello from Germany. I'm glad that you came. Yusuf, good to see you. Hi, everybody. So what I've been doing is just encouraging everyone to just use the question mark icon below. It's a little bit easier for me to answer questions than scrolling. However, feel free, of course, put your questions in the comment section too. That's okay. And hopefully all of you are doing well. And by the way, one thing I'm going to mention is that on my Instagram page, I've been doing sort of a hopefully encouraging before and afters of how I can take images and create new artwork out of using 2 images from my collection. I'm going to continue doing that for probably 1 or 2 more days. And then I'm going to switch to posting with encouragement and before and afters of my normal editing. So it won't be layered editing, it'll just be normal. And that will hopefully, for those who are not interested in going back to their archives to do sort of these artistic combination edits, you will be able to still get a lot out of my next week's postings, which will be editing using Lightroom and many other software apps and potentially Photoshop. I'm not sure. We'll see. Okay. Hi everybody, just doing some waves. If you've just joined, feel free to ask any questions at all. It's a Q&A session and I'm happy to help out as always. Welcome everybody. Still snow on the ground. It acts as a reflector from Cinderbug. Yes, snow is a great reflector. And you will find that there's very little need when you're photographing in the snow, especially if it's sunny, to have reflectors. It's a really great way to do portraiture, especially if the people like to be outdoors in the winter. If you don't like to be outdoors, if you don't like being cold, then it could be a disaster, especially for the people who are posing. So when I do commercial photography outdoors in the winter, it has to be fun or it fails because everyone's too cold. So it has to be fun, and you as a photographer have to really keep that party going, and it's not easy. Hi from sunny Vancouver, 9 degrees Celsius. K.A. Warren, good to see you. Hello from the UK, Elephant. Okay, and for those of you who just joined, it's a Q&A session. Do I use Snapseed? Amorimi? Yes, I do. I like Snapseed. In fact, I teach Snapseed on a course at markhemmings.com. It's called iPhone Photography School. And if anyone wants to know more about Snapseed, but I also use the different apps as well. I use different apps for many different reasons, and they're all really, really good. Yusuf, good afternoon, Mark. Hope you're doing great. Yes, I am. And hopefully you are as well, Yusuf. Thanks for joining. Good to see you all. Ayunit, Vlad, welcome. It's good to see everybody. And again, all of these daily sessions, if you missed them or if you just came in late, you can find them on my YouTube page. That's Mark Hemmings Photography School. Okay, now yesterday I mentioned that I have a D780. I didn't get a chance to finish answering that question. And the D780 is brand new. And just a really quick intro on that camera and why it's useful is because I'm a filmmaker as well. And even though usually when you're doing actual really heavy-duty commercial films, you would use not DSLRs, but you would use actual large cameras like Alexa and so on. However, the D780 is really good for video. It's extremely good for video, actually. And I'm also able to use it for just high-end commercial work. The Fujifilm are my go-to for street photography, as is my iPhone. However, I do find that there's just a lot more connectivity and internal firepower, as it were, to use my Nikon DSLR, my D780 for commercial work. And I forget who asked that question, I apologize, from yesterday, but that is sort of the division of gear that I use for very specific purposes. And in the past, I've used Canon all the time, and the 5D series, which is up to 5D Mark IV, I believe. I haven't used Canon in a little bit, but they're all excellent. Okay, let's go to our question mark here. What programs do you use for photo storage? Excellent question. I use Lightroom CC, and that's the desktop version. I do pay for it once a month, and it's worth every penny, at least I think so. And the reason why I use this for storage is because all of the images, all my photos go up to the cloud. That's the Adobe Creative Cloud, so they're safe up there. However, I also tell Lightroom CC to send every single photo to my external hard drive, which is sitting beside my desktop as well. So we have two forms of backup, cloud and hard drive. Now the nice thing is I can duplicate that hard drive and keep a copy at my office and a copy at my home. So I have three forms of backup, and that's all within Lightroom CC. It's a one-stop shop, and my photos are nice and safe. Great question, Soulful Lens. Okay, let's see what else we have here. As a beginner, is it enough to start Capture One Express, which comes free with Fujifilm cameras? I found it missing the layers option. Yeah, I don't think it has layers, to be honest. It's a really great question, JMO13. And layers usually does not come with software that has what's called non-destructive editing. So if your camera shoots in RAW and it's non-destructive, which would be Lightroom CC and Apple's Photos app. And I do believe you just, it escaped me. Capture One. I've never used Capture One, but I do believe that's non-destructive as well, so it wouldn't have layers. So if you're wanting to use layers, you'd be going to Photoshop or using apps. And there's many great apps that allow for layers, and that would be good for your iPad or tablet or iPhone or Android. For example, you'd use Adobe Photoshop Mix. You could use there's a whole bunch of them. They escape me right now, and they shouldn't. That'll come to me. I'm going to throw out a whole bunch of apps for you that do use layers. And by the way, please comment if you have a favorite layers app that you could throw out, and that would be helpful. Pixelmator. That's what I was thinking of. Pixelmator is excellent, by the way. Excuse me. Okay, let's scroll through here and see what we have. Sorry for the delay. Good afternoon, Mark. Hope you're doing great. Yes. Thank you, Yusuf. Okay, Cinderbug, do you have tips in using artificial lighting in poor natural lighting situations? Yes, try to have one light source only. That's not possible if you're in an environment that has both LED, fluorescent, tungsten, all those lightings. There's not much you can do about it. Usually I try to only have one light source. So if you're in poor natural light and you do want to have artificial lighting, excuse me, you could try your hand at strobes. That would be off-camera flashes. And what you would do is you put a slight warming filter, a little piece of yellow gel or yellow plastic on the flash, and bounce the flash off the ceiling. Now this is really useful if you are inside and that natural light is coming in and you're photographing inside. That's a sorry, I have a cough. I should get my drink. That's a really good trick for both illuminating the interiors when it's not so light outside, and getting it, and real estate agents should actually do that as well. Some cameras allow for the flash to pop up straight up, so that will bounce off the ceiling. Otherwise, any flash, any external flash that you put onto your camera will be able to bounce off the ceiling as well. You just angle it upward. And again, if you want to have a bit of a warmer look for the interiors of your house, you would put what's called a yellow gel, a little piece of yellow plastic that you can get at the camera stores or order them online, and that will warm up the picture. And this is really good if you're supplementing interior lights, like for example a normal tungsten indoor light, and you want to have a better looking interior, then you would bounce that flash off of the ceiling and your interior space will look a lot better. Now if you're referring to outdoors when natural light is not looking so good, then if you get into off-camera flash, I would suggest going to www.strobist.com, strobist.com, and that teaches you how to get really good light using your strobes, or what we call your flash, when you're outside, and or actually inside as well. And it's a cheaper way to get really good portraits and sort of product photography and interiors. I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, feel free to fine-tune your question and ask. I'm happy to help. Alessandra, welcome. Claudia, welcome. Hey, everybody. Hi, how are you? You're outside again? Yes, it's still too cold to be outside, but I have 2 teenagers doing homeschooling, and my wife is doing her job, and it's very loud inside. Everyone's doing their own thing, so I'm outside, and hopefully the Wi-Fi connectivity is good enough. Okay, yes, Capture One has layers. Interesting. Okay, well, thank you. So for the question about layers, and does Capture One have layers when using RAW? That's a good question that I have. I've never used Capture One. I've always heard very good things about it. So Capture One, the one that comes with Fujifilm, my guess is that you may not have layers if that's sort of an intro free version of Capture One that would come with Fujifilm. However, if you go to of course, the normal big main program of Capture One, you probably have to pay for that. And Didier Iluski, maybe you could say if that's the case or not. Okay, layers are for the Pro version of Capture One, not the Expose version. Okay, yes, that makes perfect sense. Okay, Claudia. After finishing Digital Camera Mastery, are we going to receive a certificate? Yes, all you have to do is email the support team, and that would be, I think, photo@photographypro.com. Anyway, within the course, there's always an email below, and just ask for it. It's not given out to everyone automatically, but by all means, you can certainly get that certificate. And by the way, what Claudia is referring to is the Digital Camera Mastery course that I teach online. It's an online course, and you can find it at markhemmings.com if you're so inclined. And that teaches about DSLR and mirrorless, about exposure, and all those good things about learning how to use your camera. Yes, JMO13, the Express version. Yeah, excellent. Yes, only on the Pro. That's perfect. And by the way, what they're referring to is if you get Capture One for free by purchasing a Fujifilm or any other camera, then it's a limited version, and it's really good for starting out. By all means, use it. And then you may find that you might want to bump up to the paid version of Capture One. Cinderbug, do you kill the ambient light in the room when, say, shooting food with a diffused LED light source? Yes. Yeah, forget about the ambient light, which would be normal light bulbs. You would be using your window light, if possible, and your diffused LED light source. Are you referring to an LED light panel? If so, those are wonderful. And you can get those fairly cheaply, and it's a panel, and it works really good for food photography. Okay, let's pop over to the questions here. Melinda, in Lightroom CC under the detail bar, what is the difference between noise and color noise bar? Excellent question. So noise reduction in Lightroom CC is a scenario where high ISO noise, which is the ugly, grainy looking things, can be reduced. That's pretty well known. However, what's not known is color noise. And the reason being is color noise is not that big an issue anymore. With the advent of really high quality sensors and new cameras, it's not as common to have color noise. So color noise would be RGB usually, and it would be blocks of ugly looking little grain elements. And it was really unattractive. And I remember my early cameras, early digital cameras, and even early digital scans of film would have color noise, and you can reduce that by using the Lightroom CC color noise reduction tool. However, Melinda, it's not necessary these days. If your camera is within about 3 years or 4 years, your digital camera, you may never even see color noise, to be honest. Now, if you do at really high ISO and the normal noise reduction didn't work, then by all means try out the color noise reduction, but I've never seen it lately, to be honest. Okay, that was a good question. Let's see what else we have here. Alessandra says hi. Yes, Capture One has layers with raw photos. Very, very good. Okay, so this is another thing that is probably very useful to me, because I should get into Capture One because a lot of people ask about it. I only use Photoshop and Lightroom CC, and I've never used Capture One. So I do appreciate you guys chiming in on that. The Lowell Ego getting on me this Saturday. Okay, Cinderbug, the Lowell LED panels are great. You will enjoy them. Okay. What's the difference between Lightroom CC and Lightroom Classic? That's from Dave Labar. Great question. Lightroom Classic is the renamed version of what was normally the numbered version of Lightroom. So you had Lightroom 7, you had Lightroom 6, 5, Lightroom 4, all the way back to Lightroom 1. And when Lightroom CC was introduced, and I believe that was in late 2017, if I recall, I bought it quickly, or I switched over to it quickly. I didn't have to buy it, actually, because I switched over to Lightroom CC and I stopped using Classic. Lightroom Classic, which was Lightroom 7, was switched by name to Lightroom Classic. So people who were heavily invested in Lightroom 7, they naturally wanted to stay with that because it was the same user interface, the same UX, all of that stuff, and they just kept using it. People like me who love to be working remotely and who travel, we switched to Lightroom CC. And the value of that was that we can edit our photos pretty much anywhere, and you can use your iPad, you can use your iPhone, you can use any device that you want, and it really is good for being remotely able to send your photos to clients as well. So it's a real remote solution, and I would say it has 80% functionality as the classic version. However, that is closing quite a bit each month because there's more and more features that Lightroom CC has that are pulling from Classic. So eventually, someday, it'll probably have the same functionality as Lightroom Classic. Your question may be, which do I start out with? I personally think CC is better to start out with. It's an easier interface to learn. And however, if you're locked into Classic because you've always used it, then just keep using Classic. Can you please explain your way to back up, Alessandra says. Yes, I back up automatically. In fact, Lightroom CC backs up for me. Every time I make an edit or an upload a photo to Lightroom CC, it goes straight up to Creative Cloud and I don't need to worry about a thing. It's all automatic. Further, if I tell Lightroom CC in the settings to back up every photo to my external hard drive that sits next to my computer, then it does that automatically as well. I don't need to do a thing. All I need to do is make sure that my external hard drive is plugged in to my computer and it looks after the rest. Everything's automatic. It's super simple. And if anyone wants to get into Lightroom CC, I do have a Lightroom course at my webpage, markhemmings.com, and it explains all this as well. However, if you have any Lightroom questions, why not ask them here for free? I'm always happy to help out. Christine, welcome. Good to see you. Happy to see you all. And so feel free to add questions below in the question mark. I just popped them up. And also, if you want to come live and ask a question live, there's two little icons of happy faces. And you're always welcome. I've only had one person take me up on it so far, and it was a good conversation. Okay. Thank you, Mark. I don't have either. Dave Labar says, yet I'll get CC. So Dave, if you do get CC, the nice thing is that you actually get Classic for the same, within the deal. So you don't have to choose between Classic or CC, and this is for everybody. When you buy the Adobe Lightroom monthly plan, it's $9.99 American, and it comes with Lightroom Classic and Lightroom CC, and you can choose which one to download. You can choose to download both if you want, although I don't think it's necessary. I do advise, if you've never done it before, if you've never been into Lightroom, that you use CC because it's easier. It's an easier interface. It's a user experience is much more enjoyable. That's my opinion. I've used both extensively. In fact, every single day, pretty much, I use Lightroom CC, and then prior to the end of 2017, every day I would use Lightroom Classic. However, one thing that you don't want to confuse is that if you get the photographer's plan, you get Adobe Photoshop as well as Lightroom. That's okay, but if you're not going to get into Photoshop, you may want to skip that one. Don't get the photographer's plan, rather get the Lightroom plan. And the reason, this is at adobe.com, by the way, and the reason why I mention this is that if you skip getting Photoshop at this point and just get the Lightroom plan, you get more cloud storage. Your allotment is more. If you get the photographer's plan for $9.99, you get Photoshop and Lightroom, but your allotment in the cloud is much less. So that's just something that you can weigh out. If you really want to have Photoshop, then definitely get what's called the photographer's plan. I hope that helps. Okay. Alessandra, but how to do the hard drive backup automatically? Okay, so Alessandra, all you need to do is go to your settings within Lightroom. That's Lightroom CC. And within settings, there's going to be something called backup. And what you do is you tell within settings that you want your collection to be backed up to a source, and a destination. And that destination could be an external hard drive. And you just tap on that little button and it will ask you, where do you want your photos to be stored? And what I suggest is get a large external hard drive. For example, I have a 5 terabyte hard drive, but you can just buy a 1 terabyte hard drive super cheap at any store, or 2 terabyte or whatever, and use that as the destination. And again, that is within your settings in Lightroom, and it'll be under, if I recall, it's under backup. But I should probably, what I'll do is I'll send you a direct message, or maybe you could send me a direct message to remind me, and I'll send you a screenshot of where to find that. It's within settings though. Okay, hi everybody, welcome. And if you just joined, then we're doing a Q&A session. Photo SLT, hi Mark, does Lightroom save photos with large size? Mine is always in a very large raw size. Yes, doesn't matter what size. It could be a huge 100 megapixel image from medium format cameras. It'll save any size. As far as I know, at least I definitely know it'll save up to 100 megapixels. 100 megapixel camera. Dave, I just picked up the Canon 7i. Friends have told me I'm nuts because it's an older tech. Is it still a well-functioning camera? Yes, don't listen to your friends. They are definitely not helping you. Here is my advice. Don't ever feel that you are less than, or you're going to struggle because you have a camera that's 3 or 4 years old or whatever. My suggestion is you never go into debt for photography. Don't bother going into debt for photography. Use the gear that you have cash to pay for and max it out. And then when you've maxed it out next year or whatever, where you feel it's holding you back, then you can invest in new gear. But always buy used. If you don't have a lot of cash for new, used is perfectly fine. And never feel bad about buying cameras or lenses that are a couple of years old. The reason being is because my first digital camera, which I think was the Nikon D70, if I recall, was still amazing. And I look back at those photos and they were really good. And that was a long time ago. Do not feel bad about buying used. In fact, it's wise. Why bother wasting so much money on new gear if it's not going to pay for itself? So, Dave, your Canon is excellent and keep using it. In fact, use it until it no longer serves you, until you're ready for something new because it's holding you back. Great question. I love that. By the way, I have mentioned that the wisest financial advice I've ever had is from DaveRamsey.com. It's a podcast, DaveRamsey.com, and I buy used if it's not something that I need. I'm a professional. However, I will buy it. For example, let me say this. If I'm doing professional work and I need professional gear that always works, then I buy new. But if it's for something that is less critical, like street photography, for example, where I'm not being hired by a client, then I have the luxury of buying good used. And why not? Like I buy used lenses sometimes. Sometimes I buy used camera gear, and it's perfectly fine. And it's something that all of you should be aware of, is that I don't want anyone to go into debt to buy camera gear. Okay, I'll move on. Let's see here. Amarimi, is Lightroom CC always a monthly choice, or do I have to buy long term? No. Great question. I should have always mentioned this and I keep forgetting. You can buy monthly, month by month. You're never locked into a yearly plan. You're not locked into a lifetime plan. So that's why it's fairly safe for all of you to look into Lightroom, pay the $9.99 this coming month if you want to. and then cancel. There's no problem with that. And then you have a $10 experiment, a 30-day $10 experiment, which I think is low risk. And I think you'll really like the program. Okay, let's see what else we have. Alessandra says, thank you so much. Alessandra, send me a DM, a direct message, so I'm just reminded to send you a screen capture if you haven't figured out how to do that. Okay, you are amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go down to question mark here. Oh, great. Welcome, Prerna Golani. It's good to hear from you again. And thank you for coming on screen every day. I appreciate that. How to take a photo through a glass window without reflections. This is a great question. And what I advise is you take your lens hood off, take your filter off if you have a filter, place your lens flush against the window so that there's no space. You're actually literally pushing gently the lens against the window. This is important, and it'll avoid reflections. Now, if you can't put the lens, what's called flush, against the window, then you're going to have to obviously have a slight angle, because maybe outside what you want to photograph is down or up or whatever. Then what you're going to do is turn off all the lights in your room and get someone to help you by putting a black jacket or black sweater over you while you take the picture. If you don't have that, then get a scarf, a black scarf or black fabric, and put it around your lens so that there is no ability for a reflection between the glass of the window and the glass of your lens. We're trying to minimize any light going in between your lens and the glass of the window, and that will help you. It's best if you can really have that room dark, and then you'll be all set. And if you look back at my Instagram page, my Instagram profile, after we hang up with this session, some of the Tokyo photos, in fact, a lot of the Tokyo photos from a couple months ago, I photographed from my room, the room I usually get when I'm in Tokyo, when I'm in Shinjuku. I get a certain hotel because it has some really great views that I can get outside of my hotel room. Very good question. By the way, we've been in half hour so far, and I'm almost shaking. I'm so cold. So I'm going to probably say goodbye to you guys fairly soon and get warmed up inside. But if there's a few more questions, feel free to throw them out. Otherwise, I'm going to go inside and get warmed up by the fire. Interestingly, I don't even have a fireplace. However, it's a nice thought. Okay, Photo SLT, thank you so much, Mark. I'm happy to help out. And for those of you who've just joined, I'm just going to, if you have one last question, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to go inside and get warm. Great to see you all. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining. I'm really hoping that I could help you today. And check back tomorrow. And same time, same place. And by the way, what I mentioned at the very beginning, if you wanted to still see some before and afters of how I create my photo montages of two images together by using Adobe Photoshop Mix, that app, I'm going to do this for a couple more days, and then I'm going to switch to normal editing. I'm going to show you guys before and afters how I use editing tools like Lightroom to really jazz up my landscape and my travel images. So that'll be coming up. So every day, check back. I will post each day to my Instagram and my Facebook page. And finally, this video, if you want to come back to it, will be on my YouTube page, Mark Hemmings Photography School. So check that as well. Okay. Bye, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. And have a great day today, no matter where you are in the world. All the best.